to talk about Chapter 9, Bioshock Infinite, in the context of world building. So, first, we'll talk a little bit about the game franchise as a whole. So, the game franchise of Bioshock was created by developer Ken Levine by Original Games, and that was in 1997. The game was released, the first Bioshock game was released in 2007 for Xbox 360 and Microsoft Windows, and a PlayStation 3 version was released later on in 2008. Bioshock series is made of three main action and adventure retro-futuristic games. The third one, Bioshock Infinite, being the most different from the rest of the series. The second Bioshock, so the one that comes right before, was released in 2010 on all main platforms. So here we can take a quick look at the front page of all those games. So you can already tell that the first and second game are very different from the third one in terms of atmosphere. The colors and the characters in the pictures really conveys a completely different atmosphere. So just for reference, Bioshock 1 takes place in 1960, and it's the story of Jack, the sole survivor of a plane crash in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean that discovers the entrance to the recluse underwater city of Rapture. And that happens at the end of the Civil War. And then the second Bioshock takes place about 8 years after the events of the first game, and it also takes place in a city underwater that's considered to be even more dangerous than Rapture. And in the third game, you can already tell that it's going to be a very different story. So, Bioshock 3 Infinite is a unique chapter for several reasons. One of the first reasons is because of the improved graphics compared to the other games. It also has a very different tone, like we just talked about. The first two games are very dark and grungy, horror themed, below the sea, when the third game is a bright adventure taking place on land and also in the sky. And the story is focused around two main characters, so there's an emphasis on world building aspect of the game that's very unique in Bioshock 3 Infinite. So let's just a quick look at some screenshot from the game. So you can see the first two games are very dark. From the bottom right picture, you can see it's taking place under the sea. And in these pictures, you can see that it's in the air, that the colors are a lot brighter. It's just a very different style. So, a few info about the game Bioshock 3 Infinite in general. It takes place in an airborne city called Columbia in 1912. The game is a first person shooter, and you play as Booker DeWitt, who is a disgraced ex agent. He's given the mission to find a mysterious woman, who is Elizabeth, and who is held captive in Columbia, and he has to help her escape. He accepted the mission mostly to be able to pay off his debts. The game follows their journey discovering Columbia's secret as they try to escape from the city. This game doesn't offer final bosses, but it's more about an endurance test of the player as he has to fight through several waves of a science. So here you have a picture of the two main characters. So on the left is Booker DeWitt, the main male character, and on the right is Elizabeth, the main female character, the one that you're going to be helping. So in this game, there's a very strong concept of world building, and so we'll first define what world building is. World building is a process by which an author creates a fictional world inventing its history, geography, politics, and economy, as well as any religious or power structures. World building is a creator's technique that is used in different formats, in books, in movies, or video games, so it's not just something proper to video games, but it's for any type of content, really. It also considered demographics, ecology of the world, fictional non-human races, flora and fauna, or magical properties of the world. World building can be achieved in a few steps that are basics, geography, people, civilization, technology, economics, and politics. So as we said earlier, world building is very present in Bioshock Infinite, and that's in that you can see it in a few different ways. So the first one is that you see in this game an immediate immersion into this parallel world. You start the game, and within a few minutes, you are taking this elevator, magical elevator that takes you up to the city, and you are in the city, and you start the game without really knowing anything, but that's the purpose of the game. So, in this game, learning about the world you're exploring is part of your quest and goes hand in hand with achieving tasks. So, it's not just about saving Elizabeth, but it's about doing it and learning the culture and what's going on in that particular world. In Bioshock Infinite, world building is very prominent, and we can see that because it fulfills all the elements that we saw in the previous slide. So to start with the basics, the name of the city, Columbia, what is it? It's a city in the sky. Then the geography. It's an alternate world constructed by people. It has significant locations like the lighthouse or the town center or the Comstock Center. The weather seems to be mostly sunny and warm. It looks like a good weather, but that's also because that's the first look you take at the game. It changes through the game, obviously. And then there's a very interesting work that's done about the maps in the game. The creator decided to make them purposely confusing to give the player the impression of an endless world. So you know the location, but it's more so that you don't really know how they are related to each other. So on the left, it's an attempted map of the locations in the game, but when you play the game, you don't know how those locations are related. So it makes it gives the impression of a bigger world and a bigger immersion for the player. Then the third item is the people. So it's mostly white humans. They speak English, and most people are friendly and nice, but they become enemies and sometimes get in your way. The fourth item is the civilization. So it's in this particular game, you see a normalized racism part of the society, as the only black people in the game are janitors. You also see an elitist race that reminds you of the Aryan race, idolizing their leader. And there's a very strong impact of the religion that's similar to a cult government organized around Father Comstock. So this is Father Comstock right there. You can see it's a very interesting man that has a lot of influence on his people. The five item is about technology, magic, and weapons. So there's no proper magic in terms of spells or potions in this game, but there's definitely some non-natural stuff happening, like teleportation through times and places, and of course the main fact that the city is floating in the air. Next, the economy. So the currency is the silver eagle, and you also need to trade salt in your journey in order to progress. You get the money through vending machines with a 20 to 30 coins limit, but you can get a lockpick at some point in the games to get unlimited money. But that's one of the trick of the game, one of the hack of the game. And mainly the last item, which is the politics. So this government is a ultra nationalist, nativist political party. It's a government where the religion mixes in. The society, government, and religion are all organized around one single person, Father Comstock, that I talked about earlier. There's a belief in the authority of the founding father and a fear, and a representation of a politicized religion system. And it's a caricature of the American religious and political movement of the beginning of the 20th century. So, to summarize, what we encounter in Bioshock Infinite is the representation of a politicized religious system with a charismatic leader figure at the center. So, here you can take a quick look at some streets part of the city. Now we're going to talk about the impact of world building on the player and on the creator. So we'll start with the creator. So from the creator perspective, the importance of world building is crucial for a game that relies so heavily on storytelling. A good use of world building can be a tool to guide the player through the game without the use of in-game prompts. As well, a well thought through world building in a video game will be the creator's way to deliver a full product, to polish its craft, and to make him or her feel like the world they envisioned truly came to life in that game. And now, from a player perspective, which is probably the most important, it can help suspend disbelief. It helps immerse the players in a fantasy world. The world building augments the reality and deepens the story, which makes it more real and more credible. All these factors aid the players in stepping into the shoes of the character they control. So, the example of the city held in the sky, Colombia, governed by a religious extremist, can sound silly, but in Bioshock, the breathtaking scenery mixed with the characters and their dialogue add to this work of fiction and tie everything in together. So, that's all that I have about world building in Bioshock Infinite. Thank you.